Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This past weekend, I went out to a public land parcel that opened up this past weekend. Opens up mid-September, so first ones to open. Um, it's bow season. I had my crossbow with me, and I mainly went for a scouting trip. Wasn't expecting a whole lot. First trip of the season, it's not really, you don't really have the highest expectations. But to my surprise, I had a very successful hunt. I consider a successful hunt having deer within range and a lot of deer activity in general, a lot of wildlife as well. A few things that I found a couple of important pieces of information. First piece of information, which to the people who live around here, it's not really going to be a surprise. We've been in a very long drought, been lasting a few months. Where I was hunting at, it's pine plantation and super duper dry. Very hard for those deer to find food right now with any sort of moisture in it. I mean, everything is dry and dead or almost dead. One thing that I saw about six does eating on about 100 yards ahead of me. I set up, I'll put a picture in the video. I took some pictures, and they were eating in the middle of a logging trail. And I sat down on the ground and waited for them to finish. And when they left, I went to that spot, and the wind was in my favor, so I wasn't going to spook anything. But I found out that they were eating muscadines. Muscadine season is usually mid late summer. Right now they're about done, but for them that's one of the only food sources left in those woods that they actually prefer. So this is what the leaf looks like. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. This is what they look like alive. I have one growing in my yard, so that's why I have these leaves. And this is what the leaf looks like dead. See how dark brown that is? If you're ever walking through the woods and you have some super dark brown leaves that kind of jump out at you, go ahead and do some investigation. Because if you found a muscadine vine out in those woods, you might have just found yourself a good feeding plot, all natural. And I find that muscadines like a lot of sunlight. So if you find a field edge or something like that, walk that field edge, and you might end up finding some muscadines that climbed way up in the trees, the vines, and dropping those old muscadines on the ground. Um, if you don't know what a muscadine is, I wish I had the fruit itself with me. It looks kind of like a grape, but it has a seed inside of it. It's edible for us too, but uh, deer seem to really love them. They were tearing it up. All the dirt was torn up all around. And I set up right there and had does come in on me. And I also saw some turkeys. I got some pictures of some turkeys I could show you guys. And in the same area that those does were eating, I looked around in the woods around that surrounding area, and I found a decent shed. It's been chewed up all summer long, but it's got some size to it. I don't know what it was, but obviously it has a little bit of thickness to it. I would say maybe a 2 or 3 year old buck. So he's still around. He dropped that last season, so hopefully we can get a good sighting or even a kill shot on him. I decided to use my saddle this past weekend. I climbed a little pin oak. It probably wasn't 6 or 8 inches around. I only went up about 10 feet because the canopy kind of closes you out at that point. I wanted some good, shot opportunities, and those deer had no idea I was there. I did try to take some footage of them. I'm not pleased with it, and I'm not going to post it because I don't like the way it came out. But they came out the opposite of where I thought they would, actually. The wind was still in my favor, but they came out on my right side at about 10 yards. Couldn't do a whole lot of moving at that point because you have 3 or 4 sets of eyes right next to you that close, and I'm pretty low in the tree, so it's kind of a give and take. If I'd have been higher in the tree, there would have been no issues, but I like getting as close as I can. Um, Something else that really helped me out, binos. Uh, Man, when I came down that logging trail, it was about 150 yards away from me, and I thought I'd seen does, and I wasn't sure because nothing moved yet. So I went and took a look with my binos, and I was able to count all six of them, and that gave me the reassurance that I needed to stay put and not blow out the area. You just, if you run into that situation, don't get antsy. Don't try to stalk them. Nobody is Rambo, especially out in the wide open on a trail. And with how dry everything is, you're not creeping up on anything. So just stay put, let them finish eating. They will come back, I promise. Especially this early in the season or opening days. It's been a whole season since they've had pressure on them. So younger deer and does especially are easily trackable. I mean, this was broad daylight. I saw these at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was, that's not really what happens on a typical day in the middle of hunting season. So you can really catch some deer off guard at the very beginning of season if you can have the patience and hunt your wind just right and find the food sources. This drought, believe it or not, kind of helped because there's only so many things that are still alive that they can eat. Uh, a lot of the grass is dead. It was so dusty over there. I even had to use 4-wheel drive with my truck because of how thick the dust was on the roads going back through there. Something else is don't try to do 1 day. I'm going to go in there 200, 300 yards, set up and hunt because I'm antsy. Treat that first day you get in the woods of season like almost like a scouting trip. I would recommend going around lunchtime. I really wouldn't mess with a morning hunt because the woods are a little bit different since last season. Even though you got that good spot that you like, just hold off. They might have moved from there. There might not be food there, being that this drought is going on. Go ahead, go in at lunch, bring all your stuff to hunt in case you find something you like. Walk in there and just, I recommend to not stop walking until you find some sign. And if you find some sign, or better yet, deer, wait, drop a pin. That way you remember your spot. Make sure the wind's still in your favor. Don't blow out your new spot. And then you go set up when those deer leave. They will be back at sunset. I can almost guarantee it. If you did everything right, if you did not spook them. So don't be afraid to walk. I walked 2.5 miles in to find these deer because everywhere I walked, for one, there's no tracks really. There's there's no water, there's no wet dirt or mud or anything to go off of. And if you're ever walk through a pine plantation, that's pretty tough to find the trail, especially if it's taller, mature pine and there's a clean bottom. It's very tough to find. It's also tough to distinguish between deer, armadillos, hogs. It's pretty tough for the average person unless you just studied that and you know what you're looking at. I'm not the best at it, so I'm going to look for some solid evidence that deer were there, like a good food source. I want to see some tracks. I want to see poop. I want to see even the deer. So I kept walking until I finally found sign, which ended up being deer. So uh, thank you guys for watching. I hope that helps for your opener, whether you hunt in that area that opens up in September or your opener is October 1st or later than that. Hopefully this helps you guys. Be safe. Be courteous to your other hunters. I'm out.